Hello and welcome to the Goon and Talk, back in with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Tactical Breakdown series, the show in which we look at players that Arsenal have been linked to in an analytical and statistical way with the help of some expert insight to give you guys the best education regarding these players and get you clued up on as to whether you should think Arsenal should sign these players or not. Today's show is all about Israeli striker and Shakhtar Donetsk forward Manor Solomon. See, we're minutes in, and I've made a mistake because he's not a striker. He's a winger or an attacking midfielder. You know, I'm just obsessed with strikers right now. I've been writing about Eddie Nketiah all day, so give me a break regarding that one. Hello and welcome. Hope you guys are well. Hope you're doing good. Enjoy your evenings or afternoons or mornings, wherever you happen to be in the world, as we look ahead to look at the rest of the January transfer window. This will be your first show of two of today, with, of course, our usual Tuesday Let's Talk Arsenal show happening at 5 p.m. with Johnny Cochran, so make sure you join us for that. But for now, we're going to focus in on Manor Solomon, the attacking wide and central player for Shakhtar, and find out all from Zorya Lundinsk and Andrew Todos in specifically about what he believes and what he thinks about Solomon as a player. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this expert insight.
Manor Solomon is a 21-year-old Israel international who currently plays for Shakhtar Donetsk in the Ukrainian Premier League. He joined in 2018 and has since made over 50 appearances and is got over 10 goals in his time there. A lot of his sort of early years at the club were sort of used to bit part sub appearances, especially in his first full Champions League season in 2019-20, when he came off the bench twice to score against Man City, an equaliser, and also score the winner against Atalanta in the San Siro. So he's got experience in the sort of the top European matches. He also scored against Wolfsburg in the Europa League, and this season he scored against Real Madrid twice and sort of had very good performances against them, and also Inter in the final group stage game that Shakhtar drew 0-0. Since arriving, he started out on the right, where he was playing for his former club Maccabi Petah Tikva, but he's also been deployed as an attacking mid, and most recently this season he's been predominantly playing as a left winger, replacing Tyson, who's slowly ageing. You still wouldn't say he's a certain starter, as he comes on and from the subs bench a fair bit, but I think he's slowly getting there for Castro's side. I'd say his strengths, he's predominantly very good dribbler, a very good technical dribbler, low sense of gravity, likes to keep the ball at his feet, and can take on a number of players, beat them, and he's got the strength to hold off sort of players as well that come in for the tackle. A lot of people compare him to maybe the dribbling style of Eden Hazard. Likes to come in, cut in, finish. He likes scoring goals outside the box, edge of the area, come in, finish it inside the area as well, if need be. He's also likes taking it down to the byline and cutting it back or crossing along the ball, along the box, and he's got a few assists from that as well. He's also very composed for a young player. When he gets into goal scoring opportunities and positions, he doesn't slip up. He's good at finishing those chances, and he's also, when it comes to making the key pass, he's always there to do that. The weaknesses, I guess, would probably be the fact that he doesn't consistently start for Shakhtar just yet. It's expected that if he does stay this window, which the majority of people think he will, just on the basis that Shakhtar don't want to let go of a key player ahead of their Europa League campaign in the second half of the season. They'll probably let him go in the summer for a sizable fee. Not sure, people are rumouring it to be around 25 to 35 million, but they're not going to let him go lightly, that's a fact. So when it comes to it, I guess he will be bedded into the side more, and we can see how he does from consistent starts in that second half of the season. However, so far he sometimes plays, then he's going to be a sub again, gets a few minutes at the end, does contribute in those minutes. However, I guess it's just the fact that he needs some consistent playing time. which will probably aid his cause. And also, it's also good to take with a pinch of salt the level of opposition in the UPL. A lot of them not very high intensity pressing. You know, a lot of them sit back, which allow teams like Shakhtar to come and attack them, and it's sort of like defending against 11 men. So, you know, he'll need to adapt to that if he moves to a different league, and to Arsenal, for example. He's been linked not only with Arsenal, he's been linked with Inter, who he impressed against in the Champions League, also Leeds as well. I guess Arsenal would be a good fit for him. Arteta's sort of a manager that has seen him play when he was at City. Obviously, he's inspired by those performances to bring him in, and also the fact that it's debatable whether he will fit in straight away as a starter into the Arsenal team, because you've got so many wingers there already. Although on the left he will provide a lot of energy, a lot of speed, and goals as well. So it would be a great signing if he does come, but still early doors yet. So he's got a lot to build on, and a lot to prove still.
Thank you, Andrew, for the insight on Manor Solomon there. He's an interesting player to look at. I genuinely didn't know a thing about him before, obviously doing a little bit more research this week and then writing an article about him, which you can find in the link to in the description. It goes into a lot of what Andrew has said. It breaks it down with some of the graphics that I'm going to show you in a second, and also gives kind of a judgment at the end. So please do go check out the article that is in the description about him. I've tweeted it out from our account as well, at the Gooner Talk TV. And you can find Andrew at Zorya Londonsk on Twitter. It's a great site for Ukrainian football. Gave us some insight about Mykolenko as well from Dynamo Kiev. So check it out. It's some really cool in Ukrainian football stuff for those hipster football fans out there. But cracking on with the show, how we like to do this after our expert insight, if you are new to listening, is we go through some of the graphics, which I'm going to take you through in a second, and then look at the statistics of the player before getting to your questions in the chat box. If you're watching on playback, please make sure that you leave a comment in the description. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and drop a like on the video, because I mean, you're watching a YouTube channel, so what else are you going to do? Let's have a look at some of the graphics then. This is obviously his heat map, which shows you that he plays predominantly on the left. There are some slight, very vague levels of intensity on the right-hand side, but typically he is a left-sided player. But interestingly, as that left-hand side player, does not tend to cut in. Like, it doesn't look like he intensely cuts in. When he does, he tries to pull towards the byline where he can, but it's not intensely cutting into the box, which is something we have seen with some of the wingers. Like if you look at Nicola Pepe's heat map, it's hugely intense, the amount of times he cuts in, so, which makes actually a lot more sense, because a player that does always tend to cut in makes themselves a lot more predictable. And that is certainly something that Solomon feeds for in his advantage by not becoming too much of a predictable player. If we have a look at some of the examples, he's rapid, like so fast. Beating, this is for Israel in I believe it was a UEFA Nations League, it is indeed, against Czech Republic. Easily beats his man, rides the tackle, gets into the opposition area before putting a cross into the box for the Israeli striker. And you're looking at these examples here as a player that makes good decisions in the final part of the third of the box, but is still very inexperienced to the point that he can sometimes not see the opportunities arise. And we're going to show you in this next example, which is in Shakhtar Donetsk's impressive 3-2 win at Real Madrid earlier on in the season in the Champions League. Takes on his man, can see the space that's free ahead of him, runs into that space, and there is an option here to play the ball across to Dentinho. But as I write in the article, which you can find in the description, he doesn't take this option, instead drives forward and gets a little bit caught up. And it is a little bit of decision-making that is not quite there yet for the 21-year-old. It can be developed and coached with time, that you will be able to improve and mature and make some more solid decisions. But when we've already got players like Bukayo Saka, that is already such an intelligent footballer and knows exactly when to play the right passes, that does fall down for me, for Solomon. Then looking at an opportunity where he's in an attacking situation, played on the right-hand side here this time by Alan Patrick, moves in, drives into the box, gets to the point where he's taken on a lot of players and hits a fantastically powerful shot so hard that the goalkeeper has no chance of saving it. Can get a hand to it, but the power carries it through into the goal. But this example here is showing you how he takes on players. He's really good at taking the ball past the man at speed when he needs to. And also, he reads the game exceptionally well at times. He finds that space that isn't there for other players, finds it, moves into it, drifts into it, and often catches the opposition out, and does that here against Real Madrid again for his goal that he scored. Played back by Tete, who's played it forwards, back heel into the space for someone to run onto, and it's a composed finish into the bottom left-hand corner. In terms of where he takes those shots from, you can see here, he is most clinical when he's inside the box. He might like to take shots from outside the area, but they're not anywhere near as clinical as the 7 goals he scored this season from inside the area. So if you're looking to get him the best chance at scoring, it's always going to come from a chance that's created for him or by himself in that part of the box. Let's have a look at his statistics then. If I just throw up the Y-Scout stats for you. There we go. Let's have a look at his attacking stats first of all. This is for all of his Champions League games, because as Andrew said, I didn't really want to analyse too much his game in the Ukrainian Premier League because the level of opposition is that much lower. So this is specifically for the last 2 seasons in the Champions League against Inter, Real Madrid, Gladbach, Atalanta, Manchester City and Dinamo Zagreb. So 6 decent sides that he's playing up against. We have a look at those stats. In terms of the goals that he scored 4 goals across those games which he's played against those teams. No assists, though, whatsoever, which is a little bit of a concern. Creatively, he isn't really getting those opportunities that are being taken. If we have a look at the passing stats, they'll tell us more. But the dribbles are quite good. 60% successful dribbles being done, 5.23. 14 offensive duels is a hell of a lot, but he is only winning 36.4% of those. And we talked about the shots. 1 shot, just less than that per game with a 66.7% accuracy. Going into the passing then, this is where we get a little bit more creative. So crosses, less than 1 cross per game. He's not a big crosser of the ball, playing on the left-hand side, mainly being that right-footed. Passes into the final third, again, 0.82. Passes into the penalty area, 0.82 against tougher opposition. It might be worth if we have a look at the Ukrainian Premier League this season just to see if the passing stats are particularly any different, and see how they've been affected by that if we take away the Champions League games there. Passing to the final third against the Ukrainian team in the Ukrainian League, 4.21. So there's a hell of a lot more the games that Shakhtar Donetsk do tend to dominate in these games. 2.85 passes into the penalty area with a 52.6 accuracy. It might actually be worth now looking at those attacking stats as well. Goals this season, 3 with 1 assist still in those games. He's not a regular kind of starter. He is someone that will come on off the bench as well, and he's still integrating into the team, and he isn't like a consistent name on the team sheet every single week. So they've still got Tyson there, as Andrew mentioned. But defensively, it's always good to look at those defensively. I had the Champions League games in there as well. Defensive duels, 65% of those are being won, which is a really excellent kind of working backwards on the pitch. And you could see that from his heat map, that he is working further back on the pitch as well into his own half. Winning 25% of 3.17 loose ball duels being possibly won isn't too high. 2.35 interceptions is not too bad. But losses to recoveries is a horrific ratio at 6.97 to 1.9 recoveries, with only 33% of those recoveries being in the opposition half. I know that's not his game, but I personally like my right-sided players or my left-sided players to be defensive-minded and to attack when necessary. If you look at the stats of Buendia, when we did our tactical breakdown of the Argentinian from Norwich, his defensive stats were excellent. Really good working back and fighting for the team and protecting Max Aarons in those positions. Is Solomon the type of guy that I want? The answer to this question is quite simple for me, and the answer is no. I'm not saying that he couldn't turn into a great player one day, and I think there's a lot of potential in this kid to be a really good player. But the thing is, with the situation at Arsenal and the situation financially for us, I just don't think it's the type of signing that we need. As Andrew said, the fee is around 25 to 35 million euros, which is when Arsenal were tight in January of money anyway. I don't see why we'd be looking at spending that amount of money to bring him in. Shakhtar notoriously do not like to give their players away on the cheap whatsoever. I just struggle with this one. I struggle with the link. I struggle with why Arsenal would go for him when they've got much more pressing needs at creative midfield, central midfield, right back, backup, or an upgrade, centre back, backup, a goalkeeping backup, even left back is an area now. Kolasinac has gone, but we don't have too much depth. Wide left or even wide right, I don't look as an out-and-out wide player. I know Buendia, we've talked about as a player who can play wide right, but has that potential to be more inside. But he's so much more versatile than I look at Solomon as being as a very kind of dogmatic, tenacious winger that's very speedy, technical, low centre of gravity. I think, if anything, he's the type of player that you bring in and would block the path of Martinelli, which I'm not too keen on doing. I know a lot of people see Martinelli's kind of future in the middle. I'm not yet convinced that is the way that Martinelli will go, and I think that he is much more for me a left winger and someone that will be playing really well out on the left wing. So it doesn't quite do it for me. Balaji, this is where we go into our questions. So if you do have any last minute questions on the player or anything related to Solomon and the type of signings that Arsenal are making, please feel free to throw it into the chat box. Balaji says, hi Tom, if we sign him, what do you think could be his role in the current Arsenal setup? Would he work as an impact sub? And this, I mean, the question in itself, you're asking me if he's going to be an impact sub, convinces me more that spending 25 to 35 million euros on this guy, it doesn't make too much sense. If we were to sign him, he would have to start because you've committed quite a bit of money to him. And when you've already spent 72 million on Nicola Pepe, that's just for me is not really not a realistic thing. Craig Barlow says 25 to 30 million on Solomon won't happen. Buendia 40 million again won't happen. Tom, I agree. Arsenal are pretty skinned. In January, it's just not a window which Arsenal tend to go heavy in. Like we signed Aubameyang a few seasons back, but we then had winters like Denis Suarez and Pablo Marie and Cedric, and like these summers where we don't really do too much, if anything, at times. Kim Kallstrom, like it's not a window which Arsenal like to use for incomings, and this window is very much more about outgoings. And in the summer, for the start of next season, the Gunners are really going to push for a big window, fingers crossed. There is always a chance. There's always a chance. It's football. Anything can happen. But I'm just not really kind of convinced about this as a possibility. Daniel Roberts says, we don't really have any proper wingers. All of them cut in. And Solomon as well, if he's playing on the left, is a player that is going to cut in. I know he's less predictable than some of the likes of Nicola Pepe. But wingers are players still that cut in. I mean, you call them inverted wingers in the case of Arjen Robben and Frank Ribery. I'd still class those guys as wingers. They're just inverted back in the day when they're in their prime, of course. So I know what you mean. A winger that's on the right-hand side with right foot, left-hand side with left foot, that doesn't cut in, that likes to get the ball low, driven across the box for a cross up to the byline. I understand that. But I don't think Solomon's that either. So he doesn't really fit that mold for me. Yes, Vance says, if we sign him in the summer, will it be good to have both him and Martinelli? I personally think it will be great. Both can have equal chances and can improve. I mean, at the end of the day, we'd love to have depth. It's not our money, which is always something that I like to highlight in these shows. Whilst we kind of think about things financially, it's not our money as fans. It doesn't really matter if the club spend that money, if they keep bringing players in. It doesn't really factor into our minds. It doesn't affect us. It's not coming out of our banks. But thinking realistically, I'd rather Arsenal prioritise money in other areas of the pitch. That is where my head and thinking is. 28 Guy Happy says, summer transfer hopefully after COVID should be busier, one for Arsenal, especially with the wage bill being reduced. Exactly, and that's what this window is about. It's about getting as many players off the wage bill as possible. Julius says, I think Arsenal should go for Yusuf Demir. He is young, cheap, and performing at the highest level. I don't know how cheap he would be at at Rapid Vienna. I don't think he would be that cheap. He would be cheap in relation to like a Pepe deal. He's also very, very raw still. Really, really raw and has a lot more developing to do. Mark Foxwell says, would you take Draxler on loan? No chance. So that ship has sailed. It is so done. So done. We're talking about Draxler. Novar says, saw him playing and trust me, he's worth 20 million. So there you go. If he's worth 20 million in this market, I'm not sure how to take that comment. Really, that could be positive or negative. Daniel Roberts says, I'd love to have an Israeli winger in the team. Thinking back to Yossi Ben Ayoud. I mean, I loved the cult hero signing of Yossi Ben Ayoud. It was great. I think he scored. Was it against West Brom in the game which secured our Champions League place at the end of the season? Absolute legends. Love cult hero players like Yossi Ben Ayoud. And yeah, I've not looked too much into Israeli football. I mean, I know Zahavi at PSV, the forward. I remember Tal Ben Haim at Chelsea. But it'd be interesting to see kind of Israeli football develop and grow. And they've got young players like Solomon coming through. They've got Zahavi up front. Maybe it's something that is going to improve and something that maybe they are developing gradually with these younger players getting picked up by a big club. So something that maybe we need to keep an eye out for is looking at some of these Israeli players coming through. Craig Barlow says Julian Brandt on loan, I think, is still an option, Tom. Do you think it'll happen? I don't, because Axel Witsel is injured and they're probably going to cover that position with Brandt playing in a bit part deeper role. I don't think they're going to let him go now. Dado says, what do you think about the Norwegian player from Real Madrid? I understand that we are linked with him. Martin Odegaard is the guy you're talking about. He's someone that is very difficult to analyze because of what he's done. At Real Sociedad was very good. On loan in Holland was very good. But Real Madrid, he hasn't yet been able to step up to that level. I'm not sure I'd go for him. Yeah, personally. He wouldn't be the one I'd go for that would cost the amount of money that I think they'd ask for. I'd rather go a little bit extra and get a Buendia. I see there's a lot of questions now starting to form around other general stuff, which is usually my cue to finish the show. But that's fine, because in an hour's time, I'll be back on with Johnny Cochran on our Let's Talk Arsenal show on a Tuesday. Got some news for the channel. You may have seen it as well on Twitter, is all I'll say about that for now. But I'm going to talk about that in a little bit more detail in the Let's Talk Arsenal show, which is, yeah, it's exciting stuff. Channel's growing. Channel's getting, attention. It's nice. It's great. I love it. As I do you guys and your loyal listeners that you are. So thank you ever so much for listening. If you drop a video. I mean, if you want to drop a video, you can. But if you could drop a like, that'd be even better. I'll watch a video if you do drop one. But drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and of course, hit that notification bell so you never miss a show. Check out Andrew Todos at Zorya Londonsk and get your Ukrainian football info from him. Read the article that I've written as well on Solomon in the description, and I'll see you in just over an hour's time for Let's Talk Arsenal with Johnny Cochran. I'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.